Greetings, students. It's time to actually get into some content. Yay! All right. So this is going to be our very first keywords and concepts videos. There'll be more of these. I like keywords and I like key concepts. They're helpful. But this one's kind of a mini one. This whole week is a little bit of a mini lesson, just because we have other things to do to learn about the class and such. But let's go over our keywords and concepts. So the first one that we have this week, mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is an economic policy based on accumulating silver and gold by controlling colonial and foreign markets through taxes and other charges, often through military control of foreign markets, colonies, things like that. So when we talk about mercantilism, for American students, the easiest way to understand mercantilism is what we had in America before we kicked out the British. Right? This is why we kicked out the British, because they kept taking all our money, and we didn't particularly like it. That's mercantilism. Right? England was using America to grow raw goods that it turned into finished products and made a fortune off of. We weren't seeing the money off of that because that wasn't the point of mercantilism. The point of mercantilism is to enrich the mother country, right? Is to enrich, so in this case, England. So that's mercantilism, and that's the easiest way for us to understand it. We're about to see a bunch of countries do that in the New World this term, so very useful for you to know. Speaking of colonies, we should learn the definition of colonization. Colonization is a process of establishing occupation of or control over foreign territories or peoples for the purpose of cultivation, trade, exploitation, or settlement. Okay, so that's kind of the basic definition of colonization. So what does that mean? That means that people are leaving their country, their territory, saying, hey, over there is some territory, and we would like it, so we're going to go take it and start using it. Yes, there are sometimes people on that territory, and that can become problematic. We'll discuss that as the term progresses. But that's the basics with colonization, and colonization and mercantilism go hand in hand. You really can't do one without the other. That's the whole point of the mercantilist system with colonization, is to use these colonies to generate wealth for the mother country, right? And like I said, easiest way for us to understand that's going to be the England versus America thing, right? And then part of both of these things, is when we talk about the folks that are in a particular region, you're going to see this word a lot. And I want to make sure everybody understands it. The word is indigenous. And the word indigenous means produced, growing, living, or occurring natively or naturally in a particular region or environment. So when we talk about the indigenous peoples of the Americas, we mean the people who were here before the Europeans showed up, right? The people who this was their land, who were already living here for thousands and thousands of years prior to anyone else showing up. So that's what we mean by indigenous. You can also apply the word indigenous to other things, not just people. You can apply them to plants, animals, things like that. But we use the word indigenous because it doesn't have the same negative connotations as some of the other words do, right? So if we think about some of the other words we use to describe those folks, one of the first ones was Indians, right? Well, that's a little confusing, especially now in modern America when we have people from actual India. So we can't really do that. That's a little confusing, right? So we kind of evolved to Native American, which sounds pretty good. And lots of people still call themselves Native Americans. Heck, lots of people still call themselves Indians. But again, it has some connotations. The native doesn't have great connotations to it. When we think of native, we tend not to picture something particularly good, right? We tend to think of that as being primitive or uncivilized. And then the American moniker there, those people didn't really ask to be American, now did they? So calling them Native Americans can sometimes be insulting, not for everybody, but it's just something to be aware of, that this exists in the world. So you're going to hear me frequently refer to indigenous people or indigenous plants, and that's what I mean by that. That's what I mean by the word indigenous. So those are your 3 keywords for the week. Like I said, we will have more of these, but this is kind of a short week this week as we get accustomed to our term. All right, I will see you guys in the next video.